Platforms: YouTube UTV 124, Facebook UTV 124, Instagram UTV 124, Twitch UTV 124, TikTok UTV_124, and Flow TV channel 124. Remember, UTV TV for you.
I can't stay.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. It is Monday, July 19th, 2021. As always, it is a great pleasure being with you today. I hope that you had an enjoyable weekend, a safe one, no matter what you guys were doing. We are getting closer and closer to the day. We are getting closer and closer to the day. I know a lot of people are, they can't wait, they're excited, but I do need to take this opportunity by tout moon, to make sure that you are registered, to make sure you have everything in place for when the day comes. My blatant Pierre story. All right, let's say good morning to those of you listening to us on radio, whatever you are doing. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening on our radio partner station, 92.1 and 91.1 FM. That's Hits FM. Also, if you are watching on channel 124 on Flow, we appreciate that as always, UTV. And if you're looking at the different social media platforms where we are streaming at this moment on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and all the others, thank you very much and good morning. Let me also say good morning to Vanessa from Lague. That's coming from your Uncle Belas. He insisted that I tell you good morning because you would be tuned in. So thank you very much for joining us. So let's get right into it. I know there are more promises being made, especially for the people in the South. I know personally what that is when, people come to me, people that I know, people that I grew up with, people in our communities, they make a lot of decisions based on the promises made by this administration. And there are a lot of things like DSH, and we've spoken about it before, but for the nation, nationally, the airport redevelopment project, it's been touted, it's been boasted about. We know $600 million going into it, and we continue to ask the question, should this be what we're doing right now? So we are going to revisit that. We are going to see what has happened when a leader, despite all of the experts and their advice, the people who had some misgivings, they were no consultation that we have seen in the South. I remember Larry Shoes there, did some interviews. None of these things happened, but the Prime Minister insists that that is what he wants. Let's take a look.
The terms and conditions proposed by the Export-Import Bank of the Republic of China, Taiwan are accepted. The terms and conditions proposed by, how can I vote yes that I accept those terms and conditions when I've never seen them? The public has never seen them.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
The terms and the conditions of the loan,
Mr. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, can I continue because the Prime Minister is getting a little flustered. And so let's go on, Mr. Speaker. Trying to help me. The suspicion is on you.
To be borrowing $150 million from the Taiwanese.
We can do it.
It's the first government I see boasting about borrowing money. I believe that the Bank of St. Lucia owes it to the shareholders to issue a statement from the board of directors that they have assessed this loan. They have assessed the fundamentals of this loan, and they are satisfied beyond all reasonable doubt that it was a right and proper loan to grant.
As we would appreciate, St. Lucia is a small, vulnerable state, vulnerable to the vagaries of what happens in the international market, environmental risk, market risk, financial risk, and a whole number of risks. So we need to understand, once we undertake that level of borrowing, that we have the comfort that we can afford to pay. Any bank which loans money wants to know, if you default, what are they falling back on? I would need to understand what exactly is the insurance or security that we've given to the bank in the event that you default.
Today you're asking us, against all logic, against all reasonable thinking, you've given up a PPP to take a loan of 175 million and for us to believe we should just approve it, Mr. Speaker? No, Mr. Speaker. For me, there's a lot more that has to be answered. I need to know, Mr. Speaker, what are the guarantees that this project will not be corrupted, will not be used for the wrong reasons, Mr. Speaker. As a parliamentarian, I need to get that assurance, and I don't have it, and I don't feel comfortable, Mr. Speaker.
Suffice it to say, moi pay 270 million, moi pay.
We are being asked to approve a borrowing of $100 million US. But incumbent upon that decision is the interim interest payments for the first 5 years, which is $60 million. So we need to be very, very clear about what we are approving here. And also, if you calculate 3.5% interest for the 15 years of repayment, that is $525 million additional dollars, or $500 million has to be found, which makes the total cost of this project over the life of 20 years some $850 million, Madam President. That is a huge amount, and it is not inconsequential.
Once the loan agreement has been completely signed and into a bank account in New York City, and that's where the monies will be drawn down on to be able to pay back the loan.
Prime Minister Alan Shastny has signaled his great enthusiasm as the airport redevelopment project commences. The matter has been marred by controversy given that many have questioned the wisdom of spending millions of dollars on an airport whilst people struggle to maintain their livelihoods amid the COVID-19 pandemic. But Prime Minister Alan Shastny argues that it is for this reason that the project is vital. The HIA redevelopment project has been the subject of intensely debated arguments regarding the government's fiscal prudence during a time when the citizenry is reeling from the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The HIA redevelopment project has been the subject of intensely debated arguments regarding the government's fiscal prudence during a time when the citizenry is reeling from the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The criticisms and questions have not daunted the efforts of the Alan Shastny-led government to not just embark on the project, but to see it through to completion.
In terms of the project starting right now, we're very excited. It's taken a long time to get to this place, to get all the financing secured. It has been secured. There's over $88 million currently in the lockbox as we speak. So it means that the bankers are very secure in knowing that even if COVID continues and there's a continuing dampening on arrivals, there's certainly enough monies in the lockbox to carry the existing loans for at least 3 years without getting any new traffic. But to commence the project now is a feat in itself and very exciting. But certainly with COVID and the need to be able to have other economic activity on the ground, obviously it's very meaningful.
The Prime Minister says the process is progressing smoothly and the project will not endanger the stability of the country.
Last week, Prime Minister Alan Shastny announced via Facebook that construction had begun on the Uranora International Airport, a project which is being facilitated through a loan of over 200 million EC dollars guaranteed by the government of St. Lucia. But should the multi-million-dollar airport expansion be a priority for St. Lucia as we seek to stabilize the economy amidst a global pandemic? We recently sought the opinion of independent senator and development economist Adrian Auger.
I think that the airport has more than one problem. The airport is a problem of timing as well as a problem of scale. So there may be a way to better program the expenditure so that we have some breathing room. Nobody can predict the future, and so to have that many eggs in one basket, I think, is going to be problematic. It's one of the largest loans that we have ever done. We are a tourism-based destination, and one understands the need to have appropriate infrastructure. But I think that we need to scale that appropriately because we need some breathing room, we need some flexibility, especially in the unforeseen months ahead.
details. Court filings in the United States just made public is suggesting a tainted arrangement between a company run by a South Florida man and 3 persons now members of the government in St. Lucia. One of them is Prime Minister Alan Shastney. The relationship dates back to 2009 when Shastney was tourism minister, and it is related to a contract to renovate the Heronora International Airport for $157 million. An Internal Justice Department memo, part of the inadvertent release of court filings, says St. Lucian authorities believe that the facts are indicative of a criminal arrangement between businessman Antonio Ascenza and public officials in the government of St. Lucia.
What I know is how to use money to gain wealth.
200 airports have been built through the PPP mechanism. But you all have geniuses here. Some people are happy that it's happening because in a PPP you cannot direct services where you want. In a PPP you cannot decide who will maintain. You cannot give contracts to friends, families and foreigners. In a PPP you cannot do that. In a PPP you cannot decide who will do the pavement. In the PPP you cannot give Fresh Start to cast the slabs. In a PPP you cannot do those things. In a PPP the World Bank will ensure that you have an airport at the end of the day.
The new Heronora International Airport is decorated with beautiful St. Lucian art and has lots of trees. It's like a forest in an airport.
So again, this is what we have seen over the past couple of years, people having their misgivings, like I said, and it's being met with a stubbornness by the Prime Minister. And this is coming from independent senators, people in View 4 that wanted to know, why is this happening? Why is so much money being used and in the middle of COVID? And it's more to the fact that we're seeing the way the Prime Minister prioritizes, and it gave us an opportunity. COVID did show us that in a crisis, who is put first? It really, let everything fall away. When everything is down, when you have nothing else but you and your people in the middle of a crisis, who will you put first? Will you show people empathy? Will you put monies, millions of dollars, put it aside so that people can survive? What will you do in that time? And I think it is really important that we see then, and even now, in all of the time that we've seen this administration, where they put us as opposed to the projects that they have so that some people can make money.
Okay. PM finding the resources, because dengue, it's another chronic situation that we have to manage as well. We heard the CMO, she spoke about what needs to be done on that medical front, but we know that the resources are needed as well.
So again, we're trying to spread the resources as much as possible. And I certainly would like to dismiss this idea that, oh, well, don't build a road or stop the airport or don't do this. These monies are completely unrelated. The monies that we are accessing to do roads or to do the airport are monies that we're borrowing in which there is a revenue stream dedicated to it. So again, the airport tax as well as the gas tax that we've been collecting have been going into a pot to be able to pay for those loans. So it's not to say I can just stop the road project and take the money from the road project and apply it to this other situation. When we're having to now find additional resources for the Ministry of Health, additional resources for my police officers, additional resources for the Ministry of Education, additional resources for community centers and the community, and also additional resources to help persons during this very difficult economic time. It's tough, and we're juggling and prioritizing them as best as we possibly can.
That $1.8 billion in borrowing, you can see what COVID is actually costing us. COVID is nowhere near anything there. About $54 million that we're borrowing to actually deal with COVID response. And when I say COVID response, the direct income support, the agriculture, the seeds and fertilizers that we say we're going to be giving the farmers, that money, whatever other monies we need for supporting frontline workers. That's nowhere near the big numbers there. The big numbers, well, even roads, if we compare, $200 million, which we expect to borrow for roads. But look at that mammoth Hiwanora International Airport redevelopment, right? $600 million. That is why we have to call it an elephant in the room. And that throws off everything else.
When you have it down to the figures, then you can really see where you and your well-being, what it means to a prime minister who clearly doesn't care. And for the past couple of months when we spoke about empathy, and I thought I was talking about it too much because I kept saying it, but I really do. I believe then, I believe now, that it is in the way that you treat people. So for the people who are frustrated, the silent ones even, you keep away, because they know that when they were expecting something from a man who pretends to care, like I Haley, tell me about guy, but when the time comes to help you, there's nothing there. That happened over a few months. We've seen the clips and everything, but just over the weekend, the Prime Minister will continue to boast of an airport that we do not need right now. We broke, but you will find $600 million to put in an airport. And I thought, you know, with the elections and everything else and all the projects that they haven't executed, especially in the South, the Prime Minister wouldn't go to that level. But over the weekend, I mean, I guess if it worked the first time, continue. Vinako, Vinviefo, Vindi Mun Saukai Bayo. Come and bluff people again. Let's take a listen. Let's listen to what he had to say over the weekend about the same Memeport.
For years, you've been promised a better airport. It is under the United Workers' Party that we're now expanding the airport by 3 times the size it is now, and work has already begun. Now the airport is now going. We're piling, and by November the foundations will start and the building will start going up. It will be the largest project in the history of St. Lucia. $600 million.
I think it reminds me of when the Prime Minister spoke of the Pearl of the Caribbean, and he asked, you know, do you want to be from Vieux Fort or like from a ghetto or the Pearl of the Caribbean? And I heard people cheering, and I mean, what do we have to show for it? An empty racetrack with horses, some there, some not there, some sick, some are sick, they more in air conditioned, they live in better than us. And now you have somebody speaking still of $600 million to go to an airport when people cannot eat. When he mentions 5 for 5 and pretends, you know, you'll give to the elderly and do whatever, yeah, talk about where the money going to come from, but you're going to put $600 million. And people say these things like, you know, like $1 million and nothing. More with a la. More with them. I see what a guy, see what a Shasney, you know, to just mention $1 million like it's nothing. What would you do with a crumb of that? What would you do with $1,000 a month if you're going to be getting some kind of assistance? 500. See your public to just and what we are doing, wasting millions of dollars on things that we do not need so that people, friends and family and foreigners, they can continue to live in largesse. I take personal objection to that because I am from Vieux Fort. I have heard the promises. My friends have fallen for the promises of Shasney, you know, and now you're hearing more of that. But more than that, it just, the talk of like, you know, it's nothing. 600 million is nothing. Just throw the money. Like what you can play, and if you don't have enough, you'll get from someplace else. Rufus Busquets spoke last night, and I think it was interesting seeing him come to the public, but I think he really put it in perspective in the way that Shasney, throughout this airport redevelopment project, throughout COVID, throughout dengue, throughout pandemic, throughout the health concerns, the institutions aren't working, people cannot get paid, nurses, all sorts of issues that we have. But this, the roads and airport and development projects and construction and fresh start, but it does tell us that the Prime Minister doesn't respect money. Maybe his father knew that, Pusai Patia business may for our money, he can manage it. He will have autonomy over what we earn, what we have. And we can see that clearly the Prime Minister does not care in the way that he spends money. And Rufus Bousquet, I think, said it better than I could.
So he gives people nice renderings, look at the airport. Do we really need that much airport? At this time, is that the wisest way to spend our money and then tell us the country is broke? People act surprised when the Prime Minister says the country is broke. He said it. Of course, he denied afterwards that he said it, but the proof is there. But Alan has always been a spendthrift. Look, we built this horse race track and all this sort of thing going on there. Do you recall years ago, Alan had something called Boxing in Paradise?
Yes.
And you know what the whole theme of all of that was? That St. Lucia, in his words, I quote, St. Lucia will be like a mini Vegas. We're going to have these things and tourists are going to come in, fill the hotels and do all this sort of things. Getting all excited about this whole thing. It didn't make any sense to anybody who had half a brain. How in the hell is St. Lucia going to become a little Vegas? I mean, I'm not saying it's outside of the realm of possibility that we can improve towards that end. But nobody's flying to St. Lucia for boxing. And nobody's flying to St. Lucia for no horse track.
You're right.
All right? I would have preferred to see a nice little racing track. So all the young guys in Viewfort and all over the island who have an interest in that and doing their cars and so on could have gotten something that I think they would have been able to use and they would have been happy to use.
And it's certainly something that has interest already.
Absolutely, huge interest.
Doing already.
They're doing it on their own. I mean, $10 million, $20 million would have transformed this whole thing for us and people coming from other islands in the Caribbean, and it would have been fantastic. What do? We go and spend $120 million on a racetrack, giving horses air-conditioned stalls. They can't eat grass that we have here. They have to import grass to feed the horses, and all this sort of foolishness. And people are cheering this. This is nonsense. Okay, we didn't have Boxing in Paradise. It became just another white elephant, so to speak, of an idea.
It just failed.
Because it never had the grounding to fail. Right. You can have Alan in your cabinet, but you've got to be able to ensure that there's somebody above him who can say no. This is not going to work. Because Alan is an ideas man. But he gets 200 ideas a minute and he wants to execute all of them. And if anything goes wrong or there's a problem, throw money at it. It's not working, throw more money at it. Throw money at it. You want to win the elections? You want to get out there? Throw some money and see what happens with respect to buying a seat. Then when you finish with that one, then you throw money out there with the chairmen, the various chairpersons of groups, let them bring who they want on as delegates, and then you become a political leader. So he has thrown money and has gotten some success out of it. But the party as an organization has failed. You cannot possibly tell me that it's in the interest of St. Lucians in any way, and I don't care what the long-term prognosis is, that when you give 800 acres of land at $1 an acre, you tell me which St. Lucian can get any government land for $1 an acre? I mean, this goes totally against what Sir John stands for, or stood for. Sir John was the one fighting the landowners, the descendants of the colonialists, and fighting them in order to get land distributed among St. Lucians. And then people started selling bananas, and these very same people sent their children to university. And we saw a country that was booming. Right now we have far more university graduates than we ever expected to have at this particular point in time. But that's not what he's about. Alan believes in what's called top-down economics. Make a few people on top rich, and they'll do this and they'll do that. They'll fix their yard and so on, and you can come and work on the yard, in the yard, or paint the house or do something like that. Yeah. So when people come out there, and many politicians want to brag about politics and successes in governance, and they'll say, oh, we had 100,000 tourists on the cruise ship come in, and the following year they have 120,000. But guess what? That's not how I measure success in tourism. You know how I measure success in tourism? How many St. Lucians own hotels? How many St. Lucians are managers of hotels? How many of them are in upper management or doing a lot of different jobs? Because if you clean a hotel, if you're somebody cleaning it, and there's nothing wrong with that, you can be proud of that. But you don't want your kids to clean hotels, do you? You'd like to see them do more. So you have to always be in a position where you develop in a criteria for St. Lucians to progress, to become owners. People come from overseas, they borrow our money in the bank. Many of them have gone bankrupt, couldn't even pay the bank back, our money. And yet St. Lucians are not given a fair shake. You look around and somebody comes from overseas and they're taking advantage of everything that this country has to offer, and people talk about jobs, jobs, jobs. There are St. Lucians who can do it. If one person can't do it, bring an amalgamation of people.
I can't stay. Mad ass. Hey. Free second day. Boom.
street party se jou sa la. Pa ni l'argent encore. Si nous tous prenons responsabilité et faire ça nous ni pour faire, bagay la kay marcher et nous tous kay manger. En nous tirer la peine nous kay danser encore.
Wear a mask, wash your hands, and maintain a 6-feet distance. If we keep St. Lucia safe, we can keep our economy running.
I'm a young man from the Marshall community, and I understand now Alan Shafney doesn't care about anybody, only the FFF, family, friends, foreigners.
And we have to admit as a nation that we have lowered the bar.
When SLP was there, they had a nice program. You know, the laptop for children. You know, Labour had a hat for people.
We have no more money.
But right now, Flabo forget about the people. They forget about us. St. Lucians, use your head this time. Put your X by the star. Because Labour will put you first.
The St. Lucia Labour Party, putting you first.
We can win this war. Get vaccinated. We're taking our life back. Get vaccinated.
My health and strength is my profession. It is the top priority to me and my family. By taking the COVID-19 vaccine, I can protect those who are vulnerable in my family and also my clients. To all the health-conscious persons and the athletes, I would like to say, COVID-19 has no friends, and we healthy persons can be affected as well. And worse yet, we can pass it on to those amongst us who are vulnerable. I'm looking forward to having a full class again and not having to choose which clients can come to work out today and tomorrow. I'm looking forward to our fitness family getting back together.
Get vaccinated.
This message is brought to you by the Bureau of Health Education of the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
This is Kizzy from The Hotspot, and you're watching UTV.
I can't stay.
Welcome back, and thank you very much for staying with us. When we started, I wanted to know what you guys were doing over the weekend. I saw a lot of videos. I'm sure you did too. And I should not, be so entertained, I think, in watching and listening to the speakers. I know there are the constituency rallies that are going on, but like I said before last week, when I did see the videos, I found that there was a difference in the way people behaved. But with the St. Lucia Labour Party, it seems that people are just, having a good time. And I see no quarrel, I see no bad mind, nothing yet. I see nothing like that. I just see people who are celebrating people that they think already won. People like Sean, people like Jeremiah Norbert. And, that's interesting to see because you can see the difference. And in the United Workers Party now, where Moon, will drive quick in the middle of St. Lucia Labour Party supporters, people outside, people do not cry no craziness. The Prime Minister will tell people to say, Tikwa, that sort of thing. And I really don't think that's what a leader should be doing. But I did want to start there. Let's take a look at Jeremiah Norbert, who I think, every time I mention his name, I'll say, man, Milexo. I think he is, very inspiring. He's shown himself to be persistent. He is young and surprising because I went to school with him, so I didn't see he had that in him, but it is a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. And the support and the camaraderie that I saw within his constituency over the weekend, I thought that was interesting as well.
What?
told me about it. Let me go. Let me go. What? Let me tell you, Jerry, fire, Jerry, fire, Jerry, fire, Jerry. Let me go, Jerry.
And around that same time, on the other side of the island, in Anstore, you can see that, you know, there's more animosity within the United Workers' Party. And it comes as no surprise to me because by party mem show and last year, I know what it is when people feel like they're being disrespected so much and that, you know, you come at just your mere presence. There was, you know, a lot of aggression leveled at me last year on several different accounts. Some were recorded, some not. And you can see the Prime Minister, Fede, none of them ever come out to denounce violence within the party or anything like that. So now when tensions are high, that aggression will not just be put on people that you all feel are the enemy, that the Flabo supporters will think are the enemy. It will be within themselves. And I mean, it doesn't give me any pleasure watching that. It's sad to see that even in all of this, after, you know, years of the aggression that we've seen, and nobody has come out to say, do not do that. I remember a lady said that they were waiting for Guy Joseph to come and say, you know, to the person who had the vehicle that tried to run over SLP supporters, to come and say that that's not right. Ça pas jamais fait. None of the leaders in the United Workers' Party ever came out to say that they denounce violence. So again, remember Nadia, you can't make me a lot moon, and they called the St. Lucia Labour Party violent. But all I'm seeing, the evidence we have seen, is that it's within them, and now it's imploding on themselves. And it's not a good thing to see. It's not a good thing to see your own people fight with each other. Pour la petit fede. Let's take a look.
Light.
Like I said, it's really sad to watch this happening, but then you have to ask yourself, what do you expect? I came out of Anstore last week on the ground myself, speaking to different people. They spoke to you, the viewers, and you could see there on the ground that the people keep saying the same thing, that they are being given alcohol, they're being given a little bit of money, you know, and they've been told to vote for Fede. This is what happens when you sink to that level. People, you know, a drunk young population trying to get votes and, you know, just water, but you still have to go home to your own poverty. You still have to go home to your children that are hungry. You still have to go home to your mother that's sick. You still have to go home and you're unemployed. It ain't fixing the problem when you're drinking alcohol and that's what Fede see to give you. When you know, Fede, that you have not worked for the people. And then now with all that aggression that y'all keep spurring, that y'all advocating within the United Workers' Party, people are starting to hit themselves, hit each other. The lady at the end of the video who says, and I think it's a powerful statement, that she is Flabo, me Fede uni usam sauni pufea, mo pasadi, me merci pour diba. You know, I guess it on the morning show, but as a broadcast minister, I agree with you wholeheartedly, my lady. I just cannot say it. For me, and I would just like to encourage young people that I know in the different communities, people are giving you things and you feel like you've been starved of a good time. you've been starved, you know, of having to being behind a truck. I think today would have been carnival had COVID not been there and everything else. So people are starved for that, but this is not the way to do it. Fede, if there is justice, you're not supposed to win ancillary. That is what I feel, for what you have done and not done for the community. And for those of you in the community who think that he's supposed to be there and he's done a good job, I was interested in hearing at least somebody say why Fede has to be re-elected. Let's take a look.
So that the victory will be won on the 26th day of July 2021. He will emerge. Girard will not win this election because he has not worked for that. But the Honorable Dominic Fede has done quite a lot. He has done both invisible, okay, and non-visible. You understand? So he must win because he has worked for a second term in office. Epepe Bouré!
Laupana Yepudi Telma, he has done invisible and non-visible. He has done invisible and non-visible. When I say invisible, say the rummy giving you all, the strip club you'll have there, that is no way for people to live. Where is the development? Fede, this is how you feel about St. Lucians. Exoka supporte. He's done invisible and non-visible. Ubiefet. But I think in all of this, I don't want to talk too much. I really do want to hear from you. And it is interesting hearing from people who support this iteration of the United Workers' Party, and the young woman who said she is Flobo, but she does not support Fede. And that I understand. That I understand. This disrespect Fede has, almost a disdain. Except from Naika and ancillary. And all the other fellas, I went to them and somebody said, Gasa Fede, my name is Yosa, Mr. just have been for two children from Naika, you know, and that's what he's doing. That is what he's doing, and that's what a lot of them doing, and this is no way to treat people. But like I said, I already talked too much. You have a week left. I really do want to hear from you. We'll open the lines in just a minute, but I do think that hearing from a former United Workers' Party supporter, let me tell you, this man was very vocal, a very vocal supporter. And now, when you can really see and be for country and say where wrong is wrong and right is right, because up to last year, Apa was a supporter of Gail going around. But if you really are for country and you put yourself, Wasid, Kachile Ko, Westela, Garibai Kafeton, can you really say that you can support this party and the way that it's going?
Zopé mette external ballot. Zopé mette external les voting list là. Zopé paye moun sot l'autre pays vin vote. Zopé pas kage. Ouais. C'est les bacalés sans faveur, sans perwez. Yo ka paye ticket yo. Yo ka paye kayo. Ouais. Pour vi mettre un bon d'argent chasné. Ouais. Zoni comme Jean Vali qui sorti Martinique pour try initiation. Jackass. All the Valley people are bringing down from Martinique. Sean they come and vote for. You think Valley people is jackasses? Valley need government. The Valley people need government. Les l'année Martinique. Tout l'année Martinique, je Valley pas bouger gouvernement ici. Ouais, mouté descend Martinique. C'est ça je Valley connaître. Alors on va parler about. Donc amener je Martinique descend pour vote contre Sean. Sean qui ouvert chez Bayo. Ouais. C'est je Martinique qui amener descend chasser. Amade qui est-ce qui ouvert chez Bayo. Sans honte. Chenifrem. Ouvert Jelou. Et dit qui est-ce qui ouvert chez Bayo Chenifrem. C'est pas chasser. Pas parce que chasser peut un ticket pour aller New York. Bloc compresse pourquoi well chasser pour chasser si you are the jackass. He's one of the jackasses. He's in his eyes. Chenifrem. You are one. You see birds of a feather flock together. Huh? Où est chassé à ta beauté? Huh? House slave. That is all that's about in the Flabo party. House slaves. Man who eating crumbs. Pas même slice de gamme crumbs. Mais chassé tellement bon. Flabo tellement bon. Gail tellement bon. Ouais. They are used and abused my Lucian people by this administration. And now get rid of them. We taking them out. A vote for Chasney, a vote for Flabo is mise en sécurité. Money a vote by Gail, a vote by Chasney, a vote by Guy, a vote by Ezekiel Joseph, a vote by Spider-Man Tout, a vote by Belma Rose, a vote by Kokoro Lamla, a vote by Herod. C'est mise en sécurité. You let's see who following the you let's see who following the Flabos. Big ride, big ride, big ride. Monkey ani, monkey ka hand backdoor, monkey ka hand bribes. C'est gouvernement sécurité qui a changé la salle by Flabo a. C'est yo qui a suivi Flabo. Ou ka raptor ka suivi Leba. Hein? Ou ka pes Lamborghini ka suivi Leba. Hein? Ou ka pes X5 X3 hein? Sali et puis by Flabo ka Sali et puis logo Leba. Ou ka wè ça? Passez Flabo a kini ça? Go Kokoloto en jaune. Mais c'est yo qui a volé l'argent pays ya. Yo si ça pour faire ça. Yo qui a un travail bacan, yo qui a mangé. C'est ça pour go Kokoloto yo et mener dans motocycle. Et grâce à yo qui a passé malheureuse là. Go truck, play go truck. Mais quand yo en whis. Hein? Yo pas quand même à transit pour passer malheureuse dans la transit. Sans honte.
So honte way. The lines are open, 572-7588 and also via WhatsApp at 484-7588. Appa was spitting fire. There wasn't a line that wasn't meant to be there. It was true. And for that reason, you just have to let the people talk, consider things that Yusuf can say. Let's take the call. We have a first one. Good morning.
Good morning, Tresha.
Good morning, sir.
Tresha, the word is on the ground, and we've all heard it by now. The UWP know. The UWP knows that it cannot win the general election by fair means. One of the things that they're planning on doing big time is paying people to vote for them. The word is, they have said to people who they intend to pay, or they're going to say to those people they intend to pay, when you're given the ballot and you mark it in the booth, you come out and you show it. You show it openly to everybody in the polling station. So the agents, the UWP agents in those polling stations will see that you voted for the UWP so you can get your money later. But Tresha, here's the thing. You know, don't you, that according to the law, the poll is a secret poll. You know that, don't you? Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Good. According to the law, the poll is a secret poll. Nobody must know who you voted for, especially on election day. So, the presiding officer, when he or she gives his instructions to the voter, one of the things he or she says is, look, when I give you that ballot, you go into the polling station for that purpose. You mark your ballot with the black pencil you'll find in the booth, and you're going to fold it in the same way that I've given it to you and return it to me so I see only my initials, because the poll is a secret poll. Now, Tresha, I believe, and I think there are 2 meetings this week for presiding officers, returning officers, poll clerks, etc. I think the presiding officers must go a little further and say to them, if you come out with the ballot, and in the way you come out with it, you show who you voted for, that ballot will be deemed a spoiled ballot. I must also tell you, you've broken the law. And in that regard, I'm under no obligation to give you another ballot. Now, let us say, and Tresha, I'm saying all this so that people can be informed. Let us say, Tresha, that the presiding officer decides that he or she is going to give that voter another ballot because he has deemed that first ballot spoiled. and he'll put it in the envelope which is marked spoiled ballots. Let us say he gives that person another ballot, and the person goes in there, and this time he or she comes out, the voter, in the correct way, shows the presiding officer his or her initials and puts it in the box. The UWP agents already know where that person has voted because he or she has shown the previous ballot. Now, the presiding officer sees a second person come in and do that. A third person come in and do that. The presiding officer must say, okay, I've seen enough. I think there is a pattern here. Anybody else who comes in and does that, he or she is not going to get another ballot. Tresha, the poll must be protected. The poll is a secret poll by law. The UWPs must not think that they can buy the elections. So the presiding officers must put a stop to that if they see that happening. And I hope the SLP representatives in those meetings make that point firmly and strongly. Because, look, the other thing is the agents, the SLP agents in those polling stations, if once they see those things happening, they must make a note of those things so that those presiding officers, if they fail to heed, because the candidate, I am sure, the SLP candidate will be called into those polling stations, the chief elections officer will also be called to speak to those presiding officers who do not want to put a stop to that, because down the road, they too will be held to account because they're assisting in breaking the law. Tresha, I just wanted to put that out there so that people are guided. So those people who believe, those voters who believe that they can go in there and present their ballot so that people can see who they voted for and then go and collect money, that is going to be dealt with. Thanks, Tresha.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you. You have another call? Good morning.
Hi, good
Thank
morning,
you for
Trish.
holding.
No problem. I have a question and I'm very concerned. Very, very, very concerned. You put up a graph to show the expenditure and the monies the taxpayers will be paying back, the borrowings. I need to know, there is a graph for roads, the one for COVID, which we're hearing that they're borrowing so much for COVID, but yet COVID is the lower graft, lowest graft. I need to know the graph that said other. What does other mean? I need to know. Could you please explain to the viewers the graph that said other, that was touching the top of the graph sheet?
Okay.
We need to know, what does other mean?
Okay, caller, I'll have to get back to you on that.
Because I suspect other is our vehicles, our businesses, our friends, our families, and the foreigners that come into St. Lucia that we're spending money on. So I just need to know. This is very concerning, because if as St. Lucian citizens we're going to be paying back those borrowed monies, at least we need to know what they were being borrowed for. And if it is that it's for friends, families, and foreigners, we need to ensure that these ministers take prison for what they've been doing, because young people cannot be working hard and paying debts for Shasney, a guy and their friends.
And that's just, you know, when you say young people, that's people that are already there. I think it's really powerful when people say the unborn already in debt. Your poor men fit. You need bills to pay. They have the debt to pay.
Exactly. And you telling me, okay, roads, we understand, yes, roads have to be built, this have to be built, but the other graph that's the highest, it has other. What is other for?
As a young person,
other is for pockets.
As a young person yourself, I want to know how you feel about the monies being given out. Have you gotten any wind of that? Have you been offered? What's it like on your side?
I need young persons out there to know that monies will, the $200, I just spent $200 on groceries for my daughter this morning. $200 will not sustain you for 5 years. Take the $200 and vote these people out. Take the shirts. They're not bringing it for me. I need to pay my bills. Let them know they can bring shirts and monies and things for me to eat, because I will take it, but I know what I will do. We young people need to look up, wake up, Our future is at stake. Young people, take the money and vote them out.
Caller, thank you very much.
I thank you.
All right. Have a good one. Thank you. You have another call?
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Tresha. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Yes, not bad, thank you. I am so very confused what Mr. Andrew spoke about that I had already called the department, your caller before the last, concerning the spoiled ballot. This ad which is out there indicating that the spoiled ballot, if when returned to the presiding officer, has to be opened and the word spoiled written across it is illegal because it takes out the secrecy out of the whole thing. The ballot must be returned folded as if it was a properly cast ballot, and the spoiled be written on the back. Right? As Mr. Andrew was saying, that can be an indication, okay, of the person's, the person cast the ballot, right? So they show the first one and go back with a second to just repeat what they have done, right? Now it is all legal for you, even if you have cast the vote and you think, okay, it is not good enough, right? It's all legal for you to go back and say, I need another ballot. But whatever you did must not be seen because there's no requirement by law for you to explain or indicate what you did that you consider not good, right? So something must be done about that. And I think the SLP has to ask, whether it by injunction or that this ad be immediately removed from circulation. It has to be stopped. Because as Andrew indicated, they're going to do everything. I mean, just yesterday in Ancillary, a young man came to us and said, in Canaries, that he has just been offered $2,500 because he has some influence to have his voice vote for FEDE. Okay? So the money is going around. I mean,
what did he tell you?
We know where it came from. We know where it came from, so they can just give it away.
They can give it away because they know what they get in. What is $2,500? What is $500? Saki $6 lauka and plea.
But Tresha, we come from a society where people to be given a shot of rum to vote, and they did vote for the party. Yeah? The tradition has been there, and this is what they're working. But it is a different dynamic now. The young people we have now are not like their parents. I mean, okay. So we have to improve upon them, and we have to do them master. If you give me $2,500 to share among 5 of us, that's $500 for 5 years. And I think that's the 5 for 5 you're talking about. We're giving you $500 for 5 years. We're giving you $500 for 5 years. $100 a year. So I think, you're doing a good job. Everybody, every medium must come. But I think the party itself must make a statement. Make a statement about that thing because it is wrong. And if they do that, if they don't, and that thing continues, we can kiss that election goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. And I do think it is important, to stay vigilant as you have been and other callers, Mr. Andrew Antoine, to see the certain things that are going on and to make sure that people be and stay aware. Because we've seen, got a text message, my friends got text messages about Christians for country. So saying if you're a Christian, vote for the United Workers' Party, just sending out text messages, sending out all kinds of propaganda, sending out questions so you can go to Barbados. That is what they think of us. Give them food, give them a trip, give them something else, because they know. Lower pouvoir, ibel, idu, usa bailanja, you like the power. They don't want to lose it. They know what they get in. And they know what they lose if they're not in power too. Munkona and see. Let's take the call. Good morning.
Good morning, Tresha. I must say that advice that the callers that have called so far are giving to our voters, especially our young voters, our first-time voters, this advice is very, very important. It is also important to think soberly and clearly when you're going to the polls. think soberly and clearly on the 26th. We have discussed all the glaringly negative reasons why we should not vote for the United Workers' Party. We have ventilated it. Perhaps some people need reminding, but I think we have ventilated these reasons very, very clearly. Now we must understand why we must and should vote for the United Workers. Sorry, for the not for the United Workers Party, but for the St. Lucia Labour Party, and also in Castries North and Castries Central for Richard Frederick and Stephen King. We need to make that important change. The manifesto was launched last night, and it is important for us to go through the manifesto, read it, understand it. Now, many of the ideas that are in the manifesto are ideas that have been ventilated and discussed throughout the various communities, the youth economy, etc., etc. These ideas have been discussed very, very clearly during the period, but we think they have been fleshed out much better in the manifesto, so we need to look at it and study it in the manifesto. Now, I know that many times people talk about these, a lot of promises that may not be made. And indeed, if you have to go by the record of the United Workers' Party, you will believe that, especially in the last iteration of the party, they have not even achieved 20% of what they promised people in their manifestos. However, you will find that the Labour Party's track record has been different. We have achieved a very large proportion of what we had said in the manifesto we would do, and we are asking the people, the electorate this time, that we are committed to that and to hold us to that, because we are going to endeavor to do the very, very same. That is, achieve the majority of what we have promised in the manifesto. So I think we should go to the polls with an open mind, think clearly, think soberly, have a good idea of what the manifesto is saying, and when we go to vote, we are going to vote on that day, the 26th, for the Lucia Labour Party, throughout Philip J. Pear for our Prime Minister, and in the other constituencies, the Labour Party, the Labour Party representatives. Of course, Castries North and Castries Central, Richard Frederick and Stevenson King, the independent candidates. This is a time for St. Lucia, and we need to form that alliance with Richard Frederick and Stevenson King. For people, for Labour Party supporters in Castries North and Castries Central, they should come out openly and unequivocally and vote for Richard Frederick and Stevenson King. And that is the message that I want to leave this morning.
Thank you very much, caller. I appreciate it. Thank you. We'll try to take one final call if we can, if we have the time. I know we're over time now. The number is 572-7588. Also, you can call us via WhatsApp at 484-7588. And I do think, like the callers have said, is to be vigilant and to ask questions and to know what your rights are. I remember last week we had the conversation with Musa, and he was talking about 200 voters added to the list. You just sorti n'importe côté. Nobody knows where they're coming from. So again, vigilance is important. I say, denye si maintenant pour election. They are desperate. They will do anything, and we know that. So you cannot take it for granted. Let's take our final call. Good morning. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Tresha.
Good morning, sir. You are a final caller?
I must say, yeah, pardon?
You are a final caller?
Okay, that is great. Tresha, I must say you have been doing a very good job.
Well, thank you.
And yes, you're doing a very, very, very good job. Yes. For the past 2 years, I think.
Year and a half. It just seems like more than
Tresha, you have actually educated. You have actually educated the people of St. Lucia.
Thank you, caller.
One of the things that I like the most too is when you put your little piece of patwa in, Tresha. It sounds so powerful. You know, you're very good at it, and what you're doing. Trisha, the people of St. Lucia already made up their mind who they want for the next government in this country. You know? And
who have they decided? Who have they decided?
They have decided the St. Lucia Labour Party going to come in.
Okay.
Yeah, because the people are fed up of what's really happening. You know, among the government today, all the wrongdoings and while they're attacking people, but millions of dollars are going down to waste. You know, innocent people has been attacked. You know, because if you're not for the party, you're not supposed to eat in St. Lucia, and this is wrong. You know, one of the things that I would like to see is that when the St. Lucia Labour Party gets into office, that the mentality that is passing for governance in this place, we should not follow that same path. We need a prime minister for all, not a prime minister for some. You know, and that will make St. Lucia a better place, Trisha. And the people are talking. I heard what's his name this morning. Came on Andre Paul. Dr. Secret said about the St. Lucia Labour Party members are actually going out and causing violence and doing things. The other guy painting some flag, painting the road, putting some stars in the road on Friday night. Friday night, gone. That's Friday. Yes. And there was a small motorcade by the United Workers' Party. And the guy had to run for his life. Literally, they spat on the guy and started sending beer bottles after the guy. The guy came running and saying, "Boy, I have to get out of there." You know, the people spat on me and sending beer bottles after me, and you know, and these are the kind of things. And then they're going to turn around and say that the Labour Party supporters. I listened to all shows, no matter whether it is the United Workers' Party, the St. Lucia Labour Party, you know, I listened to everyone. And the show, the GVD TV, those guys, Champagne, Dr. Secret, they have another ugly one. Very ugly one. These guys have disrespected the St. Lucia Labour Party members. And they actually call, you know, whether you are a St. Lucia Labour Party supporter, if you're a St. Lucia Labour Party supporter, they brand everybody in the same bracket. You know? Everybody in the same bracket as they're a bunch of crooks, a bunch of devils, a bunch of evil. They're evil-minded, this. And, Trisha, whether I will not look at all United Workers' Party supporters as the same. You have good people in the United Workers' Party, just like you had Stephenson King. Today he's a devil. But Stephenson King was a god before. Stephenson King was the one that made the United Workers' Party, that built the United Workers' Party from nothing to what it is today. You know? And what they did, they kicked him aside. And because he doesn't follow the rules and regulations of the way they treat in St. Lucians, you figure to yourself he should not be a part of that. Right now, Stephenson King is a snake. He's a cobra. He's all kind of things today. But Stephenson King is a St. Lucian. And it's not what St. Lucia can do for you, you know. It's what you can do for St. Lucia.
What you can do for your
country. Because tomorrow it is our children that is going to reap the benefit of what we leave. If we leave bobolies and tricksters and crooks and all kind of things, at the end of the day, you see what's happening in St. Lucia? Young men killing young men, and they call it, and they say, well, boy, you know, they don't know what's really happening. But it begins from the top. It starts from the top in government. You know? Fellas doing bad things, they're doing wrong, and they're accepting it, and there is no problem. And then when our young boys do it, they turn over and say, you know what, it's crazy, they don't know
where that's
they don't know why.
From.
But there's a reason why all of these things happening, Trisha. But Trisha, honestly, the St. Lucian, pardon me?
I said we just have about 2 minutes left.
Yes, the St. Lucian public has made up the mind. The people that follow in the United Workers' Party is people that getting crumbs from the table. And we know that. the crumbs, they're reaching them nicely. They figure to themselves, boy, there's nothing the United Workers' Party is doing that is wrong. But if St. Lucia Labour Party, when St. Lucia Labour Party get into power, I will be criticizing them the very same way I'm doing it right now. Once they're doing anything that is not right, Trisha, and I know you're the very same person, will do the same to them. Trisha, have a very nice time, and let us win that election.
Thank you very much, Cole. I appreciate it. And as you've said, you know, some people are okay with getting crumbs, you know, from the table. Meanwhile, as for me and the people that I know, the people that we are in one accord, that we don't want crumbs from your table. We want our own table. We want to be in charge of our lives. We don't want you to come to a bar and just call bossman, pass a drinker. That is no life to live. That's no way to live life. And for me, that's where I think some people are there. They want more. They want different. As I said, we are going to try to talk to people. I'm tired of talking. I want to hear what you have to say. So we will continue in the same way last week, and we'll go down on the ground to the communities, and we will be in Barron's Drive tomorrow. Same time, we'll be there from 9. We're going to have a conversation about whatever issues that you want to bring. Denita Motel Barron's Drive, y'all promised me at one point I come in, I've been bien fait. I'm coming down. We're coming down, Christopher and myself and the team. We're coming to hear what you have to say. I've met some very, very interesting people. I hope to meet some more on that side. And we're going to have what I expect to be a great conversation. But as to what the last caller said very quickly about this sort of aggression that we're seeing, I've also gotten reports in Denry South of people of the SLP constituency office, all their posters, everything that they had with Alfred Prosper, your Dishy Way, they paint over it, they destroyed it. Even the campaign manager, his vehicle, they slashed tires and did whatever they did. That's the reports that I'm getting, and this is what we're seeing, this level of aggression. Another young person called me from V4, they said they had their red shirt, they were part of the rally, and some people just rob him, take his phone, all kind of things. This is what we are seeing, and it cannot be right. But in all of that, I think that we're not working in fear. I know that's what they're trying, but we're not working in fear. It's about love for country, love for ourselves. And when we have that, we know what decision we're making come the 26th. I've spoken enough. I think we have come to the end of the show. I want to thank all of you, as always, for watching. I appreciate it, as always. And we will hopefully see you at 11 live on the ground from Sufra Barron's Drive. But until then, please have a good one.
I can't stay.